All right, we've got a good number who have hopped on. Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar on the Discovery Partners Institute. I'm Melissa Haas and I'm part of the Federal Relations team for the University of Illinois system. For those of you who were able to join us for our first Altogether Extraordinary webinar that focused on SHIELD, our COVID-19 system, welcome back and thanks for joining us again. Today, we're looking forward to putting a spotlight on DPI, a major and central part of the U of I system's innovation agenda. This is a really exciting time for DPI as it's been ramping up its programming and just hired 6 tech leaders to develop promising and diverse tech talent, as well as to increase funding for R&D projects. As a quick preview, we have 3 speakers with us who are from the DPI team. After the presentation, we'll shift into a question and answer session. During the presentation, please don't hesitate to share any questions that you have in the Q&A box, which we'll be monitoring throughout. Now for intros. It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Bill Jackson. Bill is the Interim Executive Director of DPI and has been in this leadership post since January of 2020. Since Bill's arrival at DPI, the team has doubled in size and is well on its way to meeting their 2029 goal of making a significant contribution to the economic impact to the region with all of the new programs that DPI has started. And in his spare time, Bill also leads SHIELD T3, a university-related organization that's working to deploy our COVID-19 saliva tests outside of Illinois. We also have Omawale Cassell. Omawale is the director of the Pritzker Tech Talent Labs, which was just launched at the end of last year with the generous support of a $10 million donation from the Pritzker Foundation. In overseeing the Pritzker Tech Talent Labs, Omawale leads centers of excellence in immersion, workforce development, graduate programs, and lifelong learning, which you'll hear about in a bit. Finally, we have Mark Harris, who is the Director of Community Education at DPI. His unit is focused on building a deeper and more diverse tech talent pipeline in Illinois by building programs and partnerships that advance systemic alignment in computing and data science education for K through 14 students and educators. And with that, I'll turn it over to Bill to get us started with the presentation. Bill?
Great, thanks, Melissa. So today we're going to walk through what DPI does, give an overview of the context of DPI, and then the 3 things that DPI does around tech talent development, applied R&D, and business building. Next page. So first and foremost, what a great foundation Chicago and Illinois is to be building such an incredible institute. It's a long history of innovation. It's a long history of business capability, and it's a long history of leading edge capabilities. But we need more. We've already got an incredible ecosystem within Illinois, but we still need more in the context of reinventing ourselves to be an integral part of this unbelievable technology innovation and revolution that's going on across the world. Next. You know, the world is digitizing itself. It's not just sets of tech business, it's every business. Every business is somehow, some way collecting more and more data, putting more and more data in the cloud, and refining its business models in order to be more and more responsive to its customers. The worldwide market opportunity created by digitization is worth a staggering $20 trillion, well over 20% of the global GDP. Chicago and Illinois must grab its unfair share of that market. Next. DPI's purpose is to create economic value for Illinois by building its tech eco preeminence. As importantly, DPI brings together the power of the University of Illinois system with other institutions across Chicago and internationally to drive a top inclusive tech talent resource everywhere. The building blocks, right, of DPI and Chicago are here. We have an unbelievable talent pool. We have spectacular universities across Illinois and in Chicago. And we have a dynamic setting, both urban and suburban and rural, that allows us to actually have the rights to win across a number of sectors and tech in general. DPI is committed to building a homegrown, diverse, top tech talent workforce. We're going to spend quite a bit of time today, Omawale and Mark, about how we're going to build that workforce and the major initiatives we've already kicked off in order to do so. This is an incredibly important aspect of being able to ensure social mobility, and the fact of diversity, equity, inclusion as we build this opportunity and allow for more avenues to on-ramp people to higher paying jobs. You know, we've got an unbelievable set of resources. When the one thing that I've always been struck with as I'm a U of I graduate is the unbelievable talent that sits within the academic community, both at U of I, UIUC. I also graduated from University of Chicago. You know, it's a spectacular capability. Now, how do we harness that and build businesses around it? We have an unbelievable anchor of companies as well to help, you know, build businesses around, whether it's in the financial institutions, whether it's in medical, whether it's in industrials, aerospace, transportation. It's a great base to be able to build from. You know, together, what we're not only doing tech talent development, we're not only doing applied research, but we're helping and adding to the business ecosystem across Chicago and Illinois in general. One of our, you know, founding principles is to not only do research and development, but be a gateway, a elevator for these great research programs to be built into businesses, and we'll talk about that later. When we thought about all the things we're doing, we kind of grouped them into 5 major categories: education, workforce development, tech development, business building, and policies. And each of those, next page, we're doing in some form or fashion. Tech talent development will go into the 6 major initiatives we have, along with several cross-cutting capabilities that tie the talent development together. Applied research, we're developing science teams across 8 sectors, and those science teams we're then taking and working to build businesses around them through our venture lab and innovation hub. Just as important is there's a set of policies that enable both the educational side and the business building side that have to be thought about in the whole ecosystem. One of the core foundational principles and one of the reasons why DPI was formed was to drive scale, to drive talent development at a new level. We're talking about over 7,000 people going through our tech talent development each and every year, 2,000 in the immersion, 5,000 in workforce, and a whole hundreds in the community ed area. We're also talking about doing things at scale in the business building, taking that research and development and giving our professors and our grad students opportunities to build those businesses at a scale they hadn't seen before. This will continue to add to the already spectacular ecosystem that is being built in the Chicago and Illinois community around tech talent development. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Omawali, and he'll walk through the broad work and the tech talent work we're doing along with Mark as well. Omawali?
Thanks, Bill. So just to summarize, like Bill had talked about, what we want you to really take away is that DPI does 3 things, and we plan to do 3 things really well. And that's tech talent development, applied R&D, and business building. And so within these different areas, you can see that we have several different programs that are up and running. Some are at the pilot stage, some are getting ready to scale, but we want to let everyone know that these are expansive. This is really designed to be a focus on economic development, to give Illinois its rightful position to be a global powerhouse when it comes to the digitization of the sectors that are within these different functional areas. As importantly, everything that we do has a focus around diversity, equity, and inclusion. We consider these foundational to our programs. The way that we think about that is, how do we figure out what friction points have historically worked against those from disadvantaged and underrepresented groups, and then actively work to address those points. And what that also means is that while those programs get better for members of underrepresented groups, it actually gets better for everyone, because there are issues that different groups face that probably everyone might be facing. And so when you go after folks that are, sort of historically disadvantaged, you actually create more quality programs overall. And that helps us to scale and get to those numbers that Bill talked about before. So in summary, we know what we need to do. We have to provide better pipelines to get people into technology. We have to create a nexus for top researchers to want to come and study these problems and develop applied solutions. And finally, we have to have a supportive ecosystem to build these massive businesses so that Illinois can take its rightful place in the world. Now, what I want to talk about is something specifically that Mark and I work on, which is community education and Pritzker Tech Talent Labs. This is how we address the people portion of this problem. The way we do this is we look across 6 different initiatives and activities. We start off on the left going after K through 12, which is computer science and teacher training, and we progress all the way through workforce development with 2 underlying themes, which is a high school to career pathway that allows people to have both traditional education and figuring out how to get to skill mastery. And then for those who are post-traditional undergraduate age, we have a lifelong growth and learning mindset. And that allows people to reskill and upskill and to get the support structure they need. Mark and I are now going to talk in a little bit more detail about these programs, and I'm going to turn it over to Mark to talk about the community education programs now.
Thanks, Omwali. Yeah, just to really build on that, I think what's unique about DPI is our approach that it's not about just building programs, but thinking kind of very systemically about how we bring together, K-12, higher education, the community college system, nonprofits, and sort of the civic and business community in ways that really haven't existed before. And so we're looking to leverage what's already happening and also thinking about, as Omwali suggested, all of the gaps that maybe might be existing, and for us to really unify this in a more intentional approach. So this is the next 2 slides, I think, just to help you put in just context of, we are not, as DPI, we're obviously part of the University of Illinois system. We're not a campus, but what's unique about us is that we have the ability to bring in students really across their whole journey through their cycle from high school and beyond. And so this sort of is a visual representation of the touch points that DPI envisions having with learners across their journey, whether it's, we actually will start freshmen and sooner, the decision when key decision where they determine what they're going to study and where they're going to study. I think too often we realize many of our youth leave Illinois to study elsewhere, particularly youth of color. And so we want to be showing, and I think in reaching to these students sooner, to create this sort of throughput that they are connected not only to the Chicago tech community, but they're connected to the universities here in Illinois to study. And then once they get to one of these 4-year institutions, then they're connecting even deeper into programs that DPI will offer. And this goes for sort of the K-12 post-secondary, and then on the next slide, showing the kind of full scope of kind of lifelong learning, upskilling, non-traditional learners, really thinking again about all the different touch points we'll have with learners from a variety of different backgrounds as well. So just a quick note on where we're focusing in terms of competencies. So as was said earlier, every company today is a tech company. And when you look at where the jobs are, computing and computer science, data science, and sort of related fields are truly essential regardless of the field you pursue. As you can see, a very compelling stat in terms of where you look at not only the growth of where jobs are in sort of almost the T in STEM that's been discussed many times before, is where a lot of the jobs are, and they're very resilient jobs, particularly illuminated by the COVID crisis. Many of these jobs are still in demand at the moment, despite some of the challenges the economy has had. In fact, Cranes did a report a couple weeks ago. If all haven't, I can link it in the chat. Really identifying some of the key jobs in today, really post-COVID, and was all led by data science, computer sort of skills, whether it's software development, coding, cybersecurity. So again, I think highlighting the fact that we want to be really intentional about reaching learners where there is demand and will continue to be demand on the employer side. So just to dive in more tactically on what DPI is doing and what are the programs we're advancing to really get to these goals that were identified previously, and we'll start with those 6 areas. I'll sort of lead with the first 2, and we'll hand back over to Omwali. But teacher training is one of the most important things we can do today to really build capacity for teachers to teach computer science. Some on this call may be already aware that Illinois is behind in offering computer science education, while our Chicago public school system has been a national leader in requiring, making CS a requirement to graduation. 2 few schools are offering computer science, and even fewer teachers are really endorsed to teach CS. I think the reality today is in Illinois classrooms, if you are teaching CS, you likely have never taken a college level computing course. So with that context, we are very excited to be launching an endorsement program for teachers. And our goal is to endorse really 250 plus teachers in the next 5 years so that every high school in Illinois has an endorsed computer science teacher. And what's exciting for us is that it's coming at a time where Illinois is making some really positive moves in the right direction. So many may be aware of House Bill 2170 that the governor just signed into law, which does a number of things really overall in terms of education and equity, but has some very specific provisions about computer science education and requiring school districts to offer CS course in their districts. And also our State Board of Education is in the process now of developing statewide CS standards. So the public comment period will happen in, I believe, in a few months, and then we are expecting they'll be formally approved by the State Board of Ed before the end of the year. So in light of all of this, we see the endorsement as one important step in the right direction to get these school districts equipped to sort of meet that requirement, and also having more teachers within their districts endorsed to teach CS. So I'll also include just some information about our program. We're going to be officially announcing it in the press on Monday, in fact, but it's a 5-semester long program. It's about 1.5 years with an optional 6th course for teachers from grades 5 to 12 that will be all online. And we're at DPI really focused about building a community of practice around these teachers. And so I'm excited to say we've actually built our own internal capabilities, hired a former CPS teacher who's going to be leading a lot of those efforts for us and sort of supporting these teachers beyond just the endorsement and through other professional learning opportunities. The next area is really reaching learners directly. So we have launched a program called Digital Scholars. It was piloted last year, and we're scaling it for this summer. It's a 5-week-long summer program, very intensive program for high school, community college, and incoming UIC students. It's run in partnership with UIC Chance, that some of you on the call might be familiar with as well. And really our goal is to intentionally build a deeper and really more diverse pool of students pursuing computer science in Illinois. It's important to note of our students in our pilot year, 40 of those students in total. We had 75% that were Black or Hispanic, 65% were out of CPS. And so we intend, as we grow and scale this program this summer, students could take one of now 4 tracks. So the 2 on the left, as you see, we have CS 100, which is a college level course that will allow the students to get college level credit for that. CS 111, also another advanced level CS course that students who are in either on their way to UIC or who are advanced in their ability to sort of take some of these CS concepts and then get the dual credit opportunity. We have 2 new tracks, mobile app development, which is a partnership with Apple, and data science, which is especially exciting for us this year since we're being able to reach, I would say, a wider group of students who may not know if computer science is the right path for them. But I think, again, data science being so connected to really every field at the moment, and it's something that some of you might know is building into a formal degree program, both at our Urbana campus and at UIC. And so this is what we see growing, to have more students stepping into these opportunities really earlier in the pipeline and really connecting them to Chicago. A lot of the program is really built around, in addition to the coursework, connecting them intentionally to Chicago and Chicago tech community. We have speakers from all over the tech community that speak every morning to the students, Friday workshops that go deeper into the tech community. We actually are having, certainly we'll have a session on civic tech. So if there are folks on the call that would be interested in getting engaged from that vein, I think we want to obviously show students really the breadth of opportunities that exist in pursuing a computing field, and certainly there's some civic opportunities within that as well. Maybe before just turning back to you, Molly, I was going to lastly say on the community college front, we are working with this community college system very intentionally about scaling some of their efforts. Some might be aware of a really fantastic program run out of Wright College that is transferring students from Wright into Urbana, UIC, and IIT. And it was actually an NSF funded bridge program that has helped catalyze that engineering pathways program. And so there's some additional federal dollars. We'll be partnering up with Wright to help scale that efforts and to do some year-round programming together. So more to come there.
Thanks, Mark. And so just wanted to sort of like turn back to a theme that, Bill initially brought up, which is not only do we want to get more people into tech, we also want to get more people to stay within the Chicago area and the state of Illinois. We know that historically we've lost people to the coast and different areas who have been educated in Illinois, but end up taking their talents and their IP to other areas. And so what we're trying to do is create a series of immersive experiences that will get people to have more of an affinity for the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. And so one of the things that we're doing is we have a program that's partnering students with science teams that we have to let them get a better understanding of the different research that we're doing so that they can say, oh, this is kind of cool. Like this is something that I can build. And I also have a potential to have a career here. And so we're looking at this to be a cross-institution initiative where we're bringing in not only different campuses from the University of Illinois system, but also other campuses that are in and around the state of Illinois, because we know that we have a great educational ecosystem here. And what we want to do is have people come in and be able to have, essentially a cross-pollination of the different ideas that these students have. And so these are programs that we're very, very excited about. These are currently at the pilot phase that are looking to scale. The next thing that I want to talk about is that when we think about, different pathways into technology, there's certainly the traditional high school to career pathway that we've talked about already, but we're also trying to create additional on-ramps for those folks from underrepresented groups. So one of the programs that we're super, super excited about is a partnership between UIC and Full Stack Academy that is a software development, cybersecurity, and data science bootcamp that's either a 3 or a 6 month duration. The reason we chose to partner with Full Stack is because they have great placement rates and great earning rates. So upwards of 80% employment rate, and typically graduates are earning between $60,000 and $90,000 a year. And so what we've done is we've created an inclusive tech fellowship that's targeting 100 Black, Latinx, and women participants. This is modeled after a successful program in New York City that brought more women into the technology field that had a great partnership with the overall city. And so that's something we're super, super excited about. The final thing that I just want to highlight is that once again, with figuring out how to create additional pathways, what we're doing is we're working with the city colleges and the Chicago Apprenticeship Network to essentially offer another pathway in. So instead of us saying that, 4-year degree is going to be a proxy for skills, what we're going to do instead is create a taxonomy by working with employers and designing skills and working ourselves backward into the educational content that we create so that when students and participants go through these tech apprenticeships, they're going to have the skills that they need and be ready to start contributing code and contributing data science analysis on day one. So we're super, super excited to help expand capacity on some of the programs that are already working. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Bill to talk a little bit more about our research and development.
Well done. Thanks, Omwali and Mark. So as we talked about, we do 3 things: the tech talent development, which we just walked through. We also do applied research. We have designed this program really based on the capabilities that we have the right to win in and a natural position in within Illinois. So food and ag, water and climate, transportation and logistics, finance and insurance, health and wellness. These are infrastructure, information technology, and digital government. These are areas, right, for that Illinois should be 1 or 2 in and has the right to be 1 or 2 in. And so we look at these sectors as sector-wide. So for instance, farm and ag, it's all the way from seed to soul. And it's the whole sector that we're looking for. And we're building science teams around that sector. We're applying a series of capabilities along those sectors on the tech side, whether it's on the analytics, AI, machine learning, or it's big data, figuring out how to actually ingest the data, how to get time series rights, how to make sure the data is correct, making sure we log it right, all around the next generation of compute around quantum, distributed systems. The world is segregating itself. Computation is going to the edge, going to the cloud with some intermittent areas of collaboration, and then and as well as importantly, cyber. So these are the sectors and the capabilities we're building out on our applied research and development areas. Next. So we think about this model. It's actually a pretty interesting and unique one. We did a series of benchmarks around the US, you know, everything that's happening at MIT, Stanford, New York, Cornell, actually Toronto and the Mars Institute, as well as what's happening within the Chicagoland area and Illinois. So there's some great things happening at IGB. There's some great things happening at UIC, great things happening at Polsky. And so we came up with a model which we call bottom up, top down. And the idea is we create these science teams, and we've already created 9. And the science teams are working on leading edge problems that are very applied oriented. So wastewater epidemiology, something called eye-brain scans, robotics that predict agricultural needs, a robotic drone that actually measures construction sites. So we now have these science teams. Each one of the science teams really represents a potential opportunity to build a business. And we're working with the science teams to do 3 things with them. 1 is to win more grants, 2, to help them do R&D for companies, and 3 is to build businesses with them. The top-down piece of it is each sector represents an opportunity. Now that we are building out these science teams, our goal is to get to at least 80 science teams. Within each science team, we'll have between 3 and 8 professors and or academicians and or experts in that field working together. That will give us a great entree into create a vision for each and every sector and a 10-year plan and beyond, so we can actually start investing in the longer term as well. So bottom up, top down. You know, our science teams we've designed actually after what was incredibly successful model that the IGB applies, which is, you know, world-class teams. These teams are cross-institutional and cross-disciplines. Areas that we have the right to win in. So like we've picked the sectors, they're natural to the Chicagoland or Illinois area. And we work hard with the teams to create the right culture within the team so we can win more research and development. We can create kind of the energy necessary to go after all the work we want to get done, and we go for early wins. You know, we're bringing these sectors together, and it's exciting to watch, right? Because we're actually now starting to win things that we naturally wouldn't have won before. We're working closely with the state on several opportunities. We're working with several companies on opportunities that we naturally wouldn't have gotten before because of the ability to bring Northwestern, UIC, UIUC, University of Chicago, IIT together to work problems. Just as importantly, it's great to do leading edge research and to push the envelope, but that's not enough. One of the things that you see is we don't get the opportunities often enough to bring these great ideas to market. And as much as, you know, research is required and kind of the foundation, we need a conveyor belt, as we say, in order to bring these ideas and to create the economic growth and the partnerships and add that extra sauce that's needed to build businesses and not just do great research. And so we're creating this venture lab where we're actually creating a process in order to drive and to help and to facilitate and to scale businesses. It has 4 things that we're working on: helping startups, business plan development, particularly focused on postdocs, mentoring of companies and the science teams, and business building support. Oftentimes businesses, you know, the teams work on the science and the leading edge technology, but we still need to have it scalable. We still need to have the discipline, the financials, the purchasing, the HR, all the capabilities necessary to build great businesses. One of the things that is really clear is Chicago has a lot of greatness happening in it, and Illinois broadly has a lot of greatness. The research park at UIUC, the innovation labs at UIC, the IIT work, 1871, the Polsky Center. How do we make sure that we're additive to that ecosystem? And that's the idea of the 78, to be an anchor of innovation and to work together with MHub and matter and all the great things happening across the ecosystem, so we can actually get the power of the ecosystem and be a multiplier. So the Ventures Labs and the hubs bring the power of Illinois and Chicago together to help build tech businesses. The Venture Labs is all about building businesses, and the 78 is all about creating an ecosystem and getting the power of many to build these businesses. Yeah, go ahead, Omawali.
Yeah, so just, I hope that you all were able to see through this presentation that we're working on, once again, 3 key things. The first thing is tech talent development. The next thing is applied R&D. And the final thing is business building. So all of this stuff is not possible without people. And so I just want to take a second to sort of just like show the people who are working on these things from my side, and then I'll let Mark go into his team, and then Bill will end us off with the applied R&D team. And so we've got folks that are working on, Jennifer's working on our workforce education programs. We've got Phyllis Baker, who's doing our graduate programs, which is a new master's in technology leadership that we're very, very excited about, because as these companies start to digitize, they're going to need leaders who are able to lead these functions that may not have grown up in a traditional technology environment. And then we have Eric Lugo, who is a former executive at City Colleges of Chicago, who heads up our external relations, because once again, we're building partnerships with employers to allow us to design from the marketplace back. We also have Mike Bennett, who's recently joined us from Arizona State University, who's heading up our immersion programs. Karen Larson also supports student immersion, and she has a ton of experience in experiential learning at both Kellogg and the Geese College of Business. And then we have Brenna and Amy DiLorenzo, who are also helping out with these efforts. In addition, we're going to continue to grow the team. So what Melissa had said earlier is that, the size of the team at DPI has increased quite dramatically, but in order for us to have the impact, the 7,000 participants annually, 3,000 of which will be from underrepresented groups, we're going to have to continue to grow and continue to grow capability. And so I'll have Mark talk about the folks that are going to be helping out on community ed.
Yeah, just as referenced before, I think as we build our programs, we need to build our capabilities. And so on our teachers training associate director, Charity Freeman, who comes out of CPS teaching CS, and on the national board of directors of the Computer Science Teachers Association, and Gina Grant on our student programming side, who has many years of experience as both an educator and an administrator.
So on the research side, in the R&D, we have Venkat, who actually comes from UIC, has done a tremendous job on in the cyberspace. And actually today we were applying for a grant. We were down selected, but there were over 100 applications. We were down selected to one of 3 for an trustworthy AI grant for $20 million that Venkat's working on today. Jeff Doan comes to us from Bosch and a lot of experience in corporate innovation, and he's helping the science teams and the culture and bringing those teams to build businesses. Charlie Catlett is doing supports several of the science teams. In particular, he's done a lot of stuff on edge compute and is working on the wastewater epidemiology. Michael Fitzsimmons as well is in support of the science teams, helping on the grant writing, the organization. Our objective on the applied R&D is to create $100 million in grants annually, incremental to what the universities do today, and $100 million also in consulting to corporations within the Chicago and Illinois community.
So now at this time, we'll turn it back over to Melissa for the Q&A portion.
Thank you, Bill, Mark, and Omawali. So yeah, as Omawali said, we're going to move into the Q&A portion. And as a reminder, if you have questions for our panelists, please go ahead and submit those through the Q&A box. We do have one initial one that came through, and that is, why do you call it the 78? What does the 78 stand for?
So the 78, so in the Chicagoland area, there's 77 different areas. The 78 will be the next community area. And it's been termed the 78. It's just south of downtown, right off the river. So it's the 78th community within Chicago.
Thank you. How can our federal, state, and local elected officials get involved with DPI? Are there ways that they can support DPI's programming, perhaps with outreach on programs like digital scholars telling their constituents about it?
Mark, you want to take that?
Yeah, that's one obviously really immediate way. I included both of the flyers for both the student focus programs and for our teacher programs. So for those of you within district teams or working with, have relationships with, parents, with teachers, with, youth, with administrators, high school and other school administrators, like we need your help in spreading the word and getting it out there, particularly as we grow these. And I think the hope is that we'll have more visibility of these programs as we grow. And as Omali said, many of these will on the community ed side, we'll funnel those students into the other programs happening on the DPI immersion side. So that's sort of a very immediate way that we'd love to kind of engage you all and to help as we build these programs, help spread the word with eligible students and teachers.
Yeah, and I would say broadly, there's a series of policies that, and Mark mentioned one of them around, a shift in the state policy and or requirements to encourage tech development within the school districts. So that's, so there'll be a series of policies and we'd love to reach out to you as we need those. The second area that often comes up is when we're going after a grant endorsement from individuals, right? And representatives saying this is a must-do grant, this is really required, is always a support function. So the more we get support from the public community around grants, it increases the probability of winning those grants. So those are two other areas.
That's helpful. Bill, I think this one's for you. What would you say are some of the really distinct elements about DPI? What makes it so different from other innovative kind of initiatives that you might see around the country?
Well, so I think a couple things. The first thing is it's comprehensive. It goes from, K through 12 all the way through business building. Omali talked a little bit about an activity that we're doing that actually integrates the idea of education and research and development through the R&D internships. It's an interesting way we can, leverage this scope that we have by allowing students to work directly with our faculty and our science teams to do fundamental research on the work that they're doing. And they get the combination of an internship, which we know helps drive, employment, and they get excited, right? I mean, this drone one, they want to extend, and we're working through the summer to extend them to continue to build. And they're now talking about several IP opportunities. So it's really a great way to get people excited by it. The next thing that really is unique about this is we're comprehensive, meaning we're not just a single institution, right? We're cutting across multiple institutions. One of the great things we're doing, and you've heard it through this conversation today, is the partnership that are happening, whether they're with other tech educational systems like we're doing on Workforce, or whether they're with UIC, on some of the K through 12 educational programs, or whether they're with UIUC on the Teach the Teacher program, right? The teaming that we're bringing and the channel and the capability, people get excited because we're giving both the universities an opportunity to leverage all their knowledge into something that they've always wanted to do. And we're getting the advantage of unbelievable capabilities across the universities. So that's another area. I think the thing that's also interesting is we've designed applied R&D, off the best of the best. We've learned a lot from the institutions that already exist. One of the things that we've still got a lot of work to do is on the business building side, but there's some great models out there, whether it's the Polsky Center or whether it's 1871 or M-Hub, and we're spending a lot of time with them in order to learn from them. So still a lot to learn, but I think we've got a great foundation.
Excellent. I see there's a question that gets back to the permanent headquarters for DPI downtown. So if you could just tell us a little bit more about what the status is of that construction and where it's at.
So we've picked an architectural firm. It's in negotiation to finalize that agreement. And we're working towards having the building, occupied by hopefully September, hopefully August 2025, means we're going to have to break ground in 2022, and everything's, you know, moving forward. We've got a team in place. We're working with Related Midwest as well. I think one of the things that's important is it's not just one building we'd like to build, although that'll be the first. It's really an ecosystem beyond just DPI as well.
Great. So another question that I have is, how does DPI partner with industry? And we did talk a good amount about this, but in other non-academic organizations, like, what do these partnerships look like? How do they get initiated? What is that kind of structure?
Yeah, there's really kind of two ways, and please fill in for me, Omawali and Mark, but two main ways. One is on the talent development side. You know, we have a big workforce development goal, opportunity. We're looking to work with CHROs in developing their workforce talent development. Each company has a series of needs and capabilities that they need to build. They need to make transitions, you know, from what used to be a mechanical world to a digital and mechanical world. And we want to work with them in order to allow that transition to happen. The second thing is we're working with companies on some R&D. So there's a company specifically that wants to look at facilities on campus, and we're digitizing those facilities, you know, and working with them on their edge compute. So we're doing, you know, applied R&D with them. So that's another way we can work together. So there's really two broad ways: educational and applied R&D.
Thank you. Omawali, you had mentioned the cross-pollination between DPI and U of I system universities. Could you and others expand on that a little bit more? You know, what is the between DPI and the other universities in the U of I system? How do they interface, and how is DPI additive?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll give one example. So one of the things that we're working on now is a partnership with UIC and their innovation lab, right? So what we're thinking about doing is figuring out how we can get more of a dialogue and more of a partnership between companies that are interested in building capabilities within City of Chicago, State of Illinois. And what that really means is like demonstrating the immense talent that we have in the City of Chicago and State of Illinois by going through a process to have these companies, you know, essentially present problems that these students can go after and try to solve, right? And so this program is going to be not only part of the innovation lab, but we're also looking at how do we bring in the different workforce development angles, right? So we've got a program right now, once again with UIC and the Full Stack Academy, to do software development and cybersecurity and data science. And so what we're looking at ways is to get those participants in that program to potentially build minimum viable products for some of the different questions that are being asked to be solved by these companies. And so what we're really trying to do is look across for ways to say, how can DPI be additive by maybe adding additional capacity for programs? And in addition, what we want to do is look at new and unique partnerships, right? So we're looking at, you know, partnerships with city colleges of Chicago to try to have more of a pipeline into technology, you know, some of the stuff that Mark talked about with teacher training, and providing those additional on-ramps. And so I think that, you know, we try to look across, and we always, typically when someone reaches out to us, it's for some unmet need that they have. And what we try to do is co-design solutions with them, always being additive and always seeing how we can actually grow that pie.
Thank you. We've got a really good question in here from the audience. What are some of the methods and engagement and outreach with hard to reach communities, high schools, and community colleges? Also, are there diversity, equity, and inclusion goals for the first 5 years, especially as it relates to the CS certificate program?
So,
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think we're also leveraging partnerships with community organizations, with efforts that, you know, UIC and Chance and others have built, and some of the relationships they've had with the various parts of the Chicago tech community. But I would add, I think we have a real belief and an understanding of where some of these gaps are, and access and awareness and belongingness really leads that, particularly for Black and Brown students. And so for us, we're really intentional about, and particularly some of the year-round program we're going to initiate this year, really demystifying tech, really thinking And I think approaching students where they are, so partnering with community organizations that are local. So yes, we'll have virtual work, we'll have some work at DPI and at Wright College, but I think what we're excited about is that we would bring in partners like a Code Nation, like Project Sincere, those that have sort of footprints in communities and have been doing the work for many years. We want to empower them and partner with them to accelerate this so that we can again build these on-ramps into the programs that we're offering. So I think that's going to be a key part of our success, and particularly reaching the communities that were referenced.
Yeah, so just to add to that, we have, as Mark and Omawali have articulated, specific goals around, diversity, equity, and inclusion. 7,000 people we want to teach, of which 3,000 are diverse. So that is a specific goal. We actually had a conversation today about how do we actually make sure that those goals are met, not just at the aggregate level, but at the individual program level. So that's was a good dialogue along those lines, because sometimes in some programs it might be easier to meet those goals, and in others it might not be, but we should have that as part of all our programs. So that's, as far as, I think we're reaching pieces of the population today through the channels that Mark and Omawali have articulated, but we'll have to do more. And the more will be around the reaching out to local community areas and actually bringing our programs to the community versus the community coming to our programs. Yet to be fully done, but certainly on our agenda.
I also just add to that, that as we reach out to communities, like it's not going to be a top-down approach. Like, part of what we want to do is make sure that we're co-designing solutions with them so that they have a say on, how they would want to be engaged with. Because if we're trying to, leverage trusted relationships, we also want to make sure that we're doing right by these organizations. And so I would say a big part of what we do is, as we start to, reach out to the different community organizations, is that we want to be a partner and we want to understand, what are those issues and how can we actively help solve for them. And so I think that that's a really, really important sort of approach that we're going to have to any sort of community engagement, is a co-design sort of solution.
Absolutely. Thank you for all these questions that continue. The next one has to do with support from the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago. So what are some of the things that they're doing to help back and supplement DPI?
Well, the largest one, right, is helping us fund the building. Not fully funded through the state, but largely funded through the state. And so that's a huge advantage, right, to be able to build a spectacular building. And to, we're also getting help from Related Midwest. They're actually donating the land. So we're working hard to find smart ways to fund our programs. I think the other thing that's a real opportunity for us is to work closely with all the state institutions, right, that have things that they're doing that we can help them with. Like I work closely with IDPH on the SHIELD program and the testing program. We got reached out to early by Jesse and the governor about scaling up testing within Illinois, and that has now led to what happens at UIUC and UIC on the testing, SHIELD Illinois and then SHIELD T3. But that's in collaboration, right? These things work because we work together to find them and find smart ways to be advantaged and to advantage our state and its performance.
And I was just going to add real quick, in terms of the city side, we on our programs on the community ed front have been really focused and have been building partnerships with CPS. So they're helping us to identify teachers, recruit, and not only helping to find and recruit teachers, but also helping offset the costs of the program, and also reaching into the question earlier, reaching into particularly South and West Side communities and teachers where there are gaps for CS education. I would add on the city college side as well, and then statewide, working with districts, through the regional offices of education. And so just in other ways, I think, from government entities that we're working with kind of from the education side.
Thank you. Mark, I think this question is also for you. As students graduate from the computer science program, are there also conversations around other barriers at K through 12 schools, such as access to technology, considering COVID's digital gap in communities of color and disenfranchised communities? Are there opportunities to expand on access to technologies?
Yeah, I'll say just as a start, I know for our program last summer and this summer too, any student that didn't have a device, didn't have access, it was something that we ensured that was part of the program they were able to get. And I know in COVID environment, right, it's sort of tantamount, right, for students to be able to have access, et cetera. I know there's been a lot of strides both the city and private providers have in doing that. So I can't comment as much more on the how things are moving in that direction. We've been very intentional about ensuring that it's not a barrier to any of our students and want to continue to do so. I know it's something that the governor has prioritized in terms of broadband access, and the state of Illinois has really built infrastructure around that for quite a while now, both for rural and urban communities. So yeah, to the extent I think we can be continuing to help push the needs around that. I don't know that we'll be doing anything directly in that vein, but certainly are part of the solution in getting some of that going.
Thank you. I think we probably have time for one, maybe two more questions. This next one would be for Bill, probably to start out with. Where is DPI going? Just looking into the future, what's in store? You already have a whole lot on DPI's plate, but what's kind of your vision?
Well, I think you saw it today, right? We need to stay focused on building out what we've got and not, and just keep working it, right? This is kind of, for lack of a better analogy, kind of the turtle wins the race in this game, right? Where you just got to keep on plugging away, right? And not get defocused or move to another shiny object. If we do the programs we've laid out to here and we successfully do those at the scale we want to do them and with the, diversity that we need to do them, we'll be successful. 7,000 students a year is not a small task. $100 million in grant money is not a small task. And we also have a series, we want to be able to build 20 to 25 new businesses each year as well. Those are, no small task. We just need to stay focused on getting that done, right? I think these 6 programs that the educational team have laid out, along with the cross-cutting capabilities and the focus, will get it done. And how do we scale it? I mean, our discussions are really about scaling these things in a way and making the impact that we need to across the community. I mean, just to give you a sense, right? If someone gets a degree in, and we can get them, forget about a degree, if we can actually get somebody, into computer programming or into cloud or into some of these, occupations as we work the way back without maybe going to a 4-year college, without, maybe going, to the full education, we can talk about moving somebody from, basically making $10, $15 an hour to making, $50 to $100 an hour. That is a huge shift, right? And that's what we need to stay and change stripes of families one by one, but at scale, I might add.
I just add to that, like it's pretty exciting, the work that we're doing, right? Like when you think about like the different areas that we're covering, the different sectors, the different sort of like things that we're going after, like this will change the face of Illinois. It's going to change the face of the region. And so I just think that like, the support that we have behind us and like the momentum that we want to build, it's a very exciting time to be building, right? We're coming out of a global pandemic and we're sort of like seeing so many accelerating trends as it relates to digitization and technology, and to basically position the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois to take advantage of that. It's tremendously exciting. And so I would say that, part of, what Bill's talking about is that we do have a plan, but also like people should get excited about what's coming and excited about like, the progress that we're going to make, because this region, like as we build it into like this inclusive tech talent ecosystem, like it's just going to be a fun place to be. Like imagine the innovation that comes out, imagine, sort of the new businesses that are created, imagine the new inventions. Like those are just like exciting things to be a part of.
That really positive and uplifting note, seeing that we're pretty much at time, I think we'll conclude the program today. But for those of you who are listening, if you're interested in staying connected with DPI and receiving regular updates, you can sign up right on their homepage or just reach out to our government relations team or anyone from DPI and we'll get you added. And I also just want to quickly reiterate that DPI is part of the U of I system-led Illinois Innovation Network, which is a group of 15 university-based hubs around the state working to boost Illinois' economy through entrepreneurship, research, and workforce development. And we're planning on having another webinar in the coming months that'll focus on IIN. So please keep an eye out for that invitation. And again, just thank you to all the listeners for joining us. And thank you, Bill, Mark, and Omawale for providing this briefing. Thanks so much,
thank
everyone.
you. Greatly appreciate it. And thanks for all the great questions and looking forward to working together.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks.